Hey everyone, I'm Tom and welcome to the channel. Let's go ahead and talk about what my reading plans are for the month of July. And July is going to be a very interesting month reading wise for me because I'm going on a family vacation for about a week at about the halfway point of July. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, going on vacation normally destroys my reading plans, right? I'm normally not the person who gets a whole lot of reading done. But we are going to the beach, so I think there's going to be plenty of downtime for me to just kind of sit around and read. So my hope is that either I read more and not significantly less, which is normally what happens with me on vacation. I'm just such a scheduled person that, I kind of read at the same time every day for the same amount of time. I'm just kind of one of those people where it's built into my schedule and that I read when I read. So hopefully vacation helps that and not hurts it. But whatever happens, these are my tentative reads for the month of July. Let's go ahead and start off first with a buddy read I'm going to be doing. That buddy read is going to be with Chance Dillon, Jake from Nerd Level Rising, and Noel, and we are going to be reading By Blood, by Salt by J.L. Odom. This is the most recent winner of Spiffbox, or this was the 10th iteration of the self-published fantasy blog off hosted by Mark Lawrence. And like I said, just won this year. I didn't really know too much about it. As always, I'm going to read the back, basically the back of all of these books for you so you can get a little bit of an idea about it. So let's go ahead and jump into that. Azilta has served the Morrowind army for 13 years. There are 7 left to pay. A pariah, an adept soldier, he is a commander with no rank, a soldier without citizenship, and wears a sword that is unlawful for him to either use or own. He has learned to hold his tongue or risk losing everything. So I'm pretty interested in this one, obviously, just because it won that competition. That is always something that has piqued my interest. Some really good books have come out of that competition. I think Sword of Kaigen was a winner, and there are some other ones that have just been really good that apparently people have loved from this competition. Not that I have read a whole lot of them, but one thing that I do think is interesting is that J.L. Odom, I believe, was in the Marines. And so since we're dealing with a soldier here, I just wonder how much of her experiences are going to be brought into the story. And also in our buddy read group, there are people who have served. And so I just want to see if a lot of their experiences, they can feel and relate to some of the things that are happening in the story or not, or if it's, maybe an examination of the military. I'm just curious on, maybe some of the outside aspects, not just the story itself, that maybe we can talk about and be brought in, and just maybe the overall vibe and feeling of the story overall. So definitely looking forward to that one. And that is not a crazy long book. I think the audiobook is maybe 10 hours, and that you're going to see kind of a theme here for a lot of my reads until we get to the very end this month. Next up, I'm going to get to return to one of my favorite authors, and that would be Janny Wirtz. I'm also buddy reading this with somebody, and I'm reading this with Zachary Shea. He did a great interview with Janny Wirtz, and she talked about this book in it. And basically, when I was watching that, I was like, ooh, if he has not read that yet, it'd be a great one for us to read together. And I'm talking about Sorcerer's Legacy by the person who I just mentioned, Janny Wirtz. You probably have heard about Janny Wirtz from her big series, The Wars of Light and Shadow. This will be the 3rd book I have read from her, and the second one outside, well, not the 3rd book, the 3rd world I have read from her, because I have read the first 4 books of The Wars of Light and Shadow, Master of White Storm, and then I will go ahead and read Sorcerer's Legacy here. And like I said, I heard about it in that chat with Janny Wirtz herself kind of pitching it, but in case you haven't heard of this story, this is what it's about. Lady Elaine finds herself captive in the dungeons of the one who killed her husband and conquered her lands. While there, a great wizard appears to her, offering to take her away. Does she stay and suffer certain cruelties from the one who now wants to make her his new queen? Or does she go with this wizard who claims that she is the only one who can save his prince's life? Neither choice has much chance of surviving, so neither choice looks good. But if she goes, at least it will be by her own choice. And if that pitch doesn't sound great, go listen to what Janny said about it. I'll try to link that video somewhere in the description down below, because it just sounds fascinating. I have missed Janny's writing. I've missed the Worlds of Light and Shadow world a lot, and that's actually going to be something I want to just mention here. If I have the opportunity, there are some short stories, some novellas that I can read in that world that I may want to kind of sneak into this month as well. It's been too long since I've been from that into that world. I miss Lycir, I miss Arathon. I want to get back to it, and so if I get the chance, with the Sorcerer's Legacy kind of giving my Janny Wirtz fix, but if I can still get back to that world, I would like to do that. So that's just kind of like a little asterisk here for my reading plans, that if I can, I would like to get back to Wars of Light and Shadow, not with starting the next book, even though I need to do that as well, but at least getting some of those short stories in, because I didn't realize it. I think there's like 3 or 4 that I can read after I finish Fugitive Prince, so I'll double check before I read anything, but I think there's like 2 or 3 that I can definitely read, and maybe even one more that like you can kind of read it whenever. I've only read the Gallant of the novellas, which is also super good. So definitely excited to get back to Janny Wirtz. It's been far too long. and it's going to be a good time. Next up, we have one of my most anticipated new releases of the year, and that is While Darkness Gathers by fellow booktuber Philip Chase. And this is the sequel series to his Adan trilogy, which you can see, I think, somewhere behind me. Yeah, right there. And I didn't want to say too much because the synopsis on the back of While Darkness Gathers basically tells you some characters that maybe make it out of the end of the trilogy. So instead of doing that, I just basically want to say a little bit about the Adan trilogy, and maybe that will get you kind of interested in the series. The Adan trilogy is the perfect blend of those classic fantasy tropes that you want, but then brings in new elements. It is that perfect blend of classic and modern fantasy that brings those elements together so you get the best of both worlds. It shows what modern fantasy can be while still paying respect to the tropes and the themes and the world and just really the feel of that classic fantasy, and just kind of smashing them together in the best way. It's a series where each book I think gets better and better, and I'll be honest, I have pretty high expectations for While Darkness Gathers here. It takes place 16 years, I believe, after that trilogy back there. And I think there's obviously, I kind of spoiled it. There are some characters from that trilogy, but there are also characters, new characters being introduced into the story. So I'm super excited. I pre-ordered it, all that fun stuff. So once again, very much looking forward to it. And it looks like it's a significantly shorter story. So I've heard Philip talk about how he kind of wrote this one with a different intention than the original trilogy. So I'm curious on how I'm going to feel about that, because I enjoyed that trilogy so much. But I'll be honest, I'm just kind of interested to get back to the world to see some of those characters that I know and love, but also just kind of be introduced to some new things that he has going on in there. Now, to completely throw a curveball into my normal reading, this is my next book. This was really heavily suggested to me by my friends over at It's Lit Book Reviews, and that is going to be Julius Caesar. This is, basically the life of Julius Caesar. It's a nonfiction, and I tried to read at least one nonfiction a year. I think if I read that one, this will be my first one, so it kind of fits that criteria. But man, they both just sold it to me that it was just super well done, and that it read more almost like a fiction than a nonfiction, like historic telling. And so I don't know how much of it covers of Julius Caesar, if it's his whole life, if it's his legacy, everything about it. I really didn't look into too much specifics for this book. They told me it was really good. Here I am, and I'm going to read that one hopefully as well. And then the next two things really go together. After finishing Emperor's Silence, and I'm really having the goal of getting pretty caught up for when the final book comes out later this year for Sun Eater. I plan on reading both the Lesser Devil, which is like the novella. This one follows Crispin, who is one of the characters mentioned, and you spend a little bit of time with him in Empire of Silence. And then also, once I finish that, going straight into Howling Dark. And I'm pretty proud of this cover. If you get the Pokemon references here, it's nice. But yeah, once again, I didn't really look up too much about what either of these are. If you don't know, Sun Eater is kind of a sci fantasy mix. Empire of Silence is very highly regarded. Or Sun Eater in general is kind of a booktube darling right now. So I'd be really surprised if you haven't heard about it. But basically, we're following Hadrian Marlowe, who has committed atrocities in the galaxy, and we're kind of getting his retrospective thoughts on events that happened in his life leading up to all of these events, right? And I've kind of already gotten pretty attached to the series overall, and so it's going to be a huge goal. If I had to bump anything, I would bump something for that. That is other than my buddy reads, my biggest priority, right? So I would bump like Julius Caesar if I didn't think I had enough time, and move that to next month or and whatnot. So that's kind of my general feeling there. And then just very quickly on the comic and manga front, I'm going to finish All-Star Superman. I think I read like 5 pages of this, so I didn't really count that being real reading, but this is something that I would like to finish this month. I would like to finish this before I go on my vacation and I go see the Superman movie. Sticking with the comics, I mentioned this in my weekly update, but I got the first compendium of Invincible, and I'm on a time crunch with this one because it has to go back to the library because these are expensive and I didn't want to buy them myself. On the manga front, I think I mentioned that I was caught up on Vinland Saga, and apparently it is ending in the month of July. I don't know when that chapter drops. I'm honestly personally surprised that we are only getting one more chapter. I was expecting us to get closer to 4 or 5 than 1. I was wrong. We'll see. It's been 20 years in the making for Vinland Saga, so we'll see there. I would like to catch up on Berserk. I think there are 5 chapters out that I have not read there. And then, maybe continue on with Dragon Ball Super and Frieren. Got to get back to that at some point. Just so much to read, so little time. But that is my July plans. I would love to hear what you have got going on, either down in the comments, or you can always come to the Discord and hang out there. There's a bunch of us in there. I think there's 7 or 8 of us. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for a whole bunch of us booktubers there. But once again, definitely let me know what you are reading down below in the comments. And remember, read what you want when you want.